Take our minds, O Lord, and think through them. Take our hearts, O Lord, and set them on fire with love for you. Amen. Please be seated. The light didn't come from outside Jesus. It came through him. That's the first thing to notice about this morning's gospel reading. Matthew doesn't say Jesus was illuminated as if someone switched on a spotlight. He says Jesus was transfigured. The light shone from within. His face, Matthew writes, shone like the sun. Not reflected light, radiated light. Something that had always been there, suddenly made visible. Let's stay with that for a moment, because I think this changes the whole meaning of this story. The Transfiguration isn't a magic trick on a mountaintop, it's a revelation. The disciples didn't see something new, they saw what was always there, the love of God shining through a human life. Now, I have been thinking this week about people who glow like that. Not with halos or special effects, but with an inner radiance. People whose love has been so practiced, so persistent, that it became visible in their face, in their hands, in the way they enter a room. Now, most of you know that when I was a boy, I was head chorister at the Washington National Cathedral. Now, the Bishop of Washington in those years was a man named John Thomas Walker, the only African-American man to lead that diocese, and among the first in the church. But what I remember most, and what I have remembered most this week, was his smile. I was only a child, singing in the choir stalls, but when Bishop Walker moved through the cathedral, there was something about him that I didn't have a word for, an interior warmth that radiated through his face, through his presence, through the way he looked at people. It was as if he glowed. By the time I knew Bishop Walker, he was an accomplished national leader in our church, the bishop of a prominent diocese, and the dean of that great cathedral. But that's not how his life started, it's how it ended. What I have learned since is that that glow was not natural ease, and it was not easily won, but focused through a lifetime of hard and holy work. John Walker grew up in Barnesville, Georgia, in the South in the shadow of Jim Crow. He was the first African American to graduate from the Virginia Theological Seminary, then, as now, the largest seminary in the church, and a seminary historically closed to people of color. He had walked into room after room, institution after institution, where no one who looked like him had ever been welcomed, and he walked in with grace and courage each time. He knew what his eventual successor, Bishop Marianne Buddy, has called, quote, the pernicious evil of racism, and he refused to be defined by it or reduced by it. Instead, he defined himself by love. Now, Bishop Walker was among the first in our church to befriend a young South African bishop named Desmond Tutu, long before most of the world had heard his name. And Bishop Walker helped amplify his voice from the pulpit of the cathedral until it rang across continents. As a result, Bishop Walker was arrested with Bishop Tutu outside the South African embassy, standing against apartheid with their bodies when words were not enough. And when he inherited the cathedral as bishop, that cathedral was bankrupt. That vast, unfinished house of God had been under construction since 1907, but it ran out of construction funds well before the 1980s. And yet, he poured the last years of his life into completing it, stone by stone, dollar by dollar, room by room, full of people he convinced to believe that it could be done and it should be done. Bishop Walker died on September 30th in 1989. The cathedral was completed on September 29th, 1990, a year of the day to his death. He never saw the final stone laid, but those of us who did remembered and gave thanks for his incredible leadership and his radiance. That light in Bishop Walker wasn't magic. It was mastery. It was love, practiced until it shone. Toni Morrison, the great 20th century author and laureate, once wrote that love is, quote, difficult always. She counseled that we have to practice God. You have to think God carefully. And then came this remarkable line, love is not a gift. It is a diploma. And a diploma is not something that is handed to us, but something earned through study and practice and failure and beginning again. Morrison understood what the disciples on the mountain were only beginning to glimpse, that the light shining through Jesus wasn't accidental. It was the fruit of a life given completely to love, a love devoted to channeling the love of God for the world. And that light is available to all of us. Now, here's where I think the story meets us today on this last Sunday of Epiphany, which is also the last Sunday before Lent. Each one of us knows someone adept at love. Someone whose love was so practiced, so generous, so holy, that they became luminous. Someone who didn't just talk about compassion, they practiced it. Not once, but over and over in the tedious, unglamorous daily work of caring for another person. A parent, perhaps, who got up every morning and made the household run. A friend who sat with us in the dark and didn't try to fix it. A teacher, a sponsor, a neighbor, maybe someone in this very parish whose steady presence has made God's love real to us. Maybe we have known them our whole lives. Maybe we have come to know them well after they became luminous. But these are the transfigured ones. They live among us. They are transfigured not because they are perfect, but because they let God's love pass through them without hoarding it. They magnified God's love. And when we stand close enough, we can see the light. We can feel the love. We can witness their transfiguration. And that witness can change us. Jesus' story doesn't end with transfiguration. It continues with descent. Jesus comes down the mountaintop, the light now less visible, but to be revealed most fully in the sacrifice he will accomplish and the resurrection that was to come. Our collect for today asks God to grant that we, beholding by faith the light of Jesus' countenance, may be strengthened to bear our cross and be changed into his likeness from glory to glory. Changed, not in a single blinding moment, but from glory to glory, gradually through practice, the practice of love, and an orientation towards holiness. This Wednesday is Ash Wednesday. We will kneel, and Doug or another priest will mark our foreheads with ashes and say, "Remember that you are dust, and to dust you shall return." This is the most honest thing the church says all year. Like Adam, we are made of dust, of earth, and we will return to earth someday. But this remembrance is an invitation, not to despair, but an invitation to begin again, to commit to 40 days of practice. Those of us who have ever practiced an instrument or sung in a choir know something about practice rooms. Rooms where skill is built, where artistry is honed, thankfully in soundproof privacy and behind closed doors. A space where mistakes are expected and appreciated as opportunities for growth. Well, Lent is like a practice room. It's where we learn and relearn the scales of love before we are asked to perform the concerto of Easter. 40 days to do the slow, patient, unglamorous work Morrison was talking about. 40 days to practice God. Now, Bishop Walker never saw the cathedral completed, but he practiced love for that place and for others for decades. He died before the last stone was set, and with the unfinished work of fighting racism still before us. But the light he carried didn't need a finished building to shine. It was already radiating through him every day, in every room he entered, to every person inspired by his witness. No building could contain it, no matter how grand. He was a living cathedral. So here is the invitation to all of us. As we stand at the threshold of Lent, I invite you to think of the person in your life who glowed. Hold their face in your mind and then ask yourself, not, can I do what they did, but can I practice love the way they practiced love? None of us gets to stay on the mountain. All of us are asked to carry Christ's light down. Amen.